Is LSU completely out of the Elijah Havens sweepstakes? We've got an update. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts. Of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. And thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. The February signing period is done, and that means recruiting is now in a dead period. So there's no on-campus visits. Coaches can't go recruit student athletes off campus. They can't contact student athletes. So it's quiet right now. It's not a quiet period, it's a dead period, but it's quiet on the recruiting front. And no matter what, we still visit each week with Shea Dixon, our buddy from On3, the Bengal Tiger. And this was an interesting time because before the dead period started, Lane Kiffin and Kevin Smith, LSU's running backs coach, well, really all of LSU's staff, they were touring the state of Louisiana, hitting all the major high schools and all the major recruits for 2027 and beyond, and even some out of state. Well, they stopped at Evangel in Shreveport to visit Peyton Houston. Now, Peyton Houston committed to the former staff with Brian Kelly and that staff. But one of the more perplexing questions that people continue to ask is, what about Elijah Haven? Elijah Haven's at Baton Rouge, at the Dunham School in Baton Rouge. He just won Mr. Football in the state of Louisiana. He was the Gatorade State Player of the Year. And he's got offers from everybody. In the composite, he's the #1 quarterback in the country for 2027. He's in Baton Rouge, and LSU doesn't even seem to be offering him or even recruiting him right now. So the question is, why? Well, I asked Shea Dixon for an update on Peyton Houston, given the fact that Peyton Houston committed to the former staff, but apparently this staff is just as bullish on the kid they call Pop.
Yeah, he's told us that being able to meet with, whether it was Lane Kiffin, being able to talk with Charlie Weiss, being able to talk with Dane Stevens, I should say Charlie Weiss Jr. Maybe he's talking, I don't know. Maybe he's talking to everybody out there, but Jr. And then Dane Stevens, the quarterback coach, he feels good about it. And he told Chad Simmons, I'm looking at the article now, this is from after the visit you're talking about. So the coaches all went out on the road, and Lane was one of them. And he talked about meeting all the high school coaches in Louisiana and kind of having FaceTime with them. And when he was at Evangel, obviously met with Houston and everyone up there, Houston being the quarterback. And he said, I really enjoy Lane Kiffin's offense, everything he brings to the table. And he said when he was at Ole Miss, the second offer he got from any school, his first SEC offer, was in middle school. And that was from this Ole Miss staff, that Ole Miss staff that is now at LSU. So he said playing for Lane Kiffin was an option early on. He knows his history with quarterbacks. He knows the development. And he sort of shares the excitement he said that a lot of the fans obviously have right now for the offense and where things could go. So yes, Lane is always going to be heavy on portal quarterbacks, but I think this is a good year for Peyton Houston because he's already on board. They've been recruiting him at their prior stop. He's committed. They're not going after any other guys. And if you think every year he's going to go chase a portal quarterback, there's a real reality that, look, Sam Leavitt's got 2 years left. Longstreet, a former 5-star, just took a red shirt. And Landon Clark, your other quarterback, has multiple years left. So they may not have to go chase a portal quarterback next year. And then you sign a high school guy only. We'll see. But there won't be any change here. They feel pretty good about Peyton Houston being the commitment at quarterback. And one of only a couple commitments they have. It's still very early. But at the same time, I mean, on the Rivals Industry rankings, Peyton Houston, like he plays at Evangel, throws it 80 times a game. He's going to put up numbers. But he's ranked as a top 10 quarterback nationally. He's ranked in the top 100 players nationally. So There wasn't really any thought. I didn't think that Lane and them would get here and move off him. And then as I found out even further how deep that relationship went back into middle school, I'm more confident than ever that they're going to stick with him.
So Lane Kiffin and his staff at Ole Miss were recruiting Peyton Houston all the way back to middle school. So yeah, this apparently is their guy. Peyton Houston, I know there's concerns about him or questions because of the size. He's listed at 5'10", 202. He is a consensus 4-star in the composite. He's the number 100 overall prospect. He's ranked as the number 9 quarterback in the country in the composite. ESPN actually ranks him as the number 2 quarterback in the country for whatever it's worth. And he has put up a ton of stats. In 2 years as the starter at Evangel, as a sophomore, he threw for 4,400 yards and 38 touchdowns. This year as a junior, 3,800 yards and 42 touchdowns. He ran for 690 and 7 touchdowns as a sophomore. This year as a junior, he ran for 942 and 12 touchdowns. He averaged better than 10 yards a rush. So when you think about what Lane Kiffin wants, somebody who can run the football and sling it around, Peyton Houston checks the boxes, and that's a guy that he's been in on for a long time. Now, but the obvious other question becomes, well, why not Elijah Haven? Haven is, again, in Baton Rouge. He's ranked the number 1 quarterback in the country, and it doesn't appear that LSU is even recruiting Elijah Haven. This was Shea's take on what's going on there with Haven.
I think that the prior staff, it's between one of those. Haven is multi-sport athlete. He's getting close to 6'5", 220. But he's going to take some time to continue to develop his game, right? Like Peyton Houston is a better high school quarterback right now, and nobody's going to really debate that. But that's not what the rankings do. The rankings project towards the future, and obviously a guy like Haven has incredible upside. So look, I think that it just came down to what the prior staff felt was the best fit for him, and now this new staff has come in and sort of not pivoted elsewhere. And I don't remember if Ole Miss was ever really a team that was after Haven. I know he's got a million offers. He had an Ole Miss offer, but he's trimmed it down. I'm not sure if they were in that top group. And really, Matt, it's been Bama that's kind of been the one that has been viewed as the team out front after Florida they had a staff change, maybe one other. But yeah, I think right now, most people feel like if there was going to be a decision, that Bama would be the team to beat.
I don't want to be combative or disrespectful, but I don't know that I agree with Shea just flatly to say that Peyton Houston's a better high school quarterback. Look, Elijah Haven won the state championship at Dunham this year. It was that program's first title in more than 20 years. Elijah Haven won the Mr. Football Award. And by the way, he set a state record for single season passing touchdowns with 62. I just told you that Peyton Houston threw for 42. Elijah Haven threw for 62 touchdowns. He also had a combined 180 touchdowns. I mean, so he had 73 total on the season. Career total's already at 180, which is a state record. And he's got a whole nother season to play when you think about it, which is just crazy to think. He threw for 3,900 yards, 62 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, ran for 847 and 11 on just 127 carries. So I don't know that I'm there with Shea saying like it's an objective fact that Peyton Houston's a better high school quarterback right now than Elijah Haven. Stylistically, I think you could argue they're different just because they're different sizes, but both slinging around a ton and both pretty good runners as well. I just would hate to see a player from Baton Rouge go to another SEC school, and LSU didn't even throw their line in the water for him. And part of me can't help but think that this lingers from the Bryce Underwood situation, where you were so pot committed to the number 1 guy in the class. You had him committed, and at the 11th hour, he pulled out, and then you were left without. So maybe it's the fear of something like that happening with Elijah Haven. And if that's the case, fine. And you have someone who is so bullish on LSU and fits what you want to do, and he's a top 10 quarterback in the country, and he's from Louisiana, and all that's great. Like, please, yes, Peyton Houston's amazing. I'm not in any way diminishing that. What I struggle to come to grips with is saying we don't want to recruit Elijah Haven for fear of the Bryce Underwood thing happening again, where we put all our eggs in this basket, and at the 11th hour, someone with a bigger checkbook steps in and pays him and gets him away from LSU. If that happens, well, then you pivot in the portal like we've seen LSU do already. But to not recruit Elijah Haven and to just watch him go to Bama or Georgia or Florida or Auburn, those are the four that he's listed as his finalists at this point, feels a little short-sighted. There's a long way to go. Listen, those guys can't sign until December. Long way to go between now and then. We'll see what happens. But for now, LSU thrilled to have Peyton Houston committed. Apparently not even dipping their toe in the Elijah Haven waters. We'll continue to update that as we know more. All right, it is Locked On LSU, your team every day. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs, that's the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, location. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and you can target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And the stat that says it all, in the minute that we've been talking, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show will get $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. Brought to you by FanDuel as well. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. The drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense fast. Speed skating races decided by inches. Hockey games that feel different right from the opening faceoff. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. We had a chance to talk with Shea about two other Louisiana prospects for 2027 whose names you need to get to know. The first is Catholic High running back Jaden Miles, one of the top running backs in the country for 2027. And as of right now, things are trending really nicely for the Tigers.
6'2", 200 as a junior in high school is ain't too bad for a running back who can still move like he moves. He's got every offer in the country. They've been on, from coast to coast, the big schools. Everybody's been by there. And the one thing here that kind of coincides with what we just spoke on, maybe to an even deeper extent, Kevin Smith is LSU's running backs coach now. And people who know the name and are fans of college and the NFL, our age group of guys, Matt, we grew up watching him. He played at UCF. He played for the Lions, and now, like most guys, when he retires, goes back into coaching. And he's been with Lane the whole time from FAU. I think he spent 1 year apart from him, and then if he did that, and then went up to Ole Miss, and now here, he had been recruiting Jaden Miles heavily. I went back after Jaden talked about that and looked on his social media, not in a stalkish way, just trying to do my research here.
Right.
And he's got school visits, with him sitting there with Kevin Smith decked out in Ole Miss gear that are more than a year old. So that staff had been recruiting him to Ole Miss. And now that they're here, I think that boosts LSU's chances, which were already high, of landing him even further. And look, when Frank Wilson had been recruiting him, Frank Wilson's a running backs coach, that would be one that you felt like would be a given if Frank were on staff. Now that he's not, I think a lot of people wondered what would happen. Well, look, you've got a running backs coach who you're not starting from scratch with, nor with the head coach, because both of them have not only known who he is, but hosted him on campus, went to his high school, done all of these things long before they got to LSU. And I'll close that by saying, celebration, we're in a dead period right now, which I know with the NCAA, it's like, this kid signed. Well, signing doesn't mean anything anymore. Well, dead period actually does mean something. It means that nothing's happening. And, on the final day before the dead period, Jade Miles, Catholic's running back, went over to LSU and spent the day, and he did so with his family. Brought mom and dad with him, so that gave him that opportunity with this staff now here to really talk about what they're doing, their view for this 2027 cycle, what the running back room looks like. And I think that the one thing that you could take away from what I'm sure was a day's worth of conversations on a variety of topics is they really want him and they're going to press to get him. So I'd be surprised if I'm not going to, I'll whisper it, Catholic High's running back doesn't end up at LSU.
LSU has had quite a pipeline from Catholic High, which, if you know anything about me, it's my alma mater. I'm very proud of it. I yell Catholic High all the time, which is why Shea whispered there at the end, jokingly, that because I yell it. I don't care whether or not you like Catholic, don't like Catholic, it doesn't matter. What I've said forever is you just better hope that LSU, whoever the coach is, Brian Kelly, Ed Ogeron before him, Les Miles before him, now obviously with Lane Kiffin, that they keep the pipeline from Hearthstone Drive to Nicholson, because there's no shortage of talent pumping through that program in all sports, but certainly in football, and that's the case. We've seen Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Darius Geis as past running backs from Catholic High go to LSU, and Jaden Miles is next in that list. I know what the star rankings are and everything right now. He's a 4-star, and he's ranked number 215 nationally, the 13th best running back in the composite. That'll go up. If anything, it's not higher because Catholic has an offense that does feature a lot of different players, so they're not going to load up on Jaden Miles and hand him the ball 30 times a game. If they did, he'd run for 4,000 yards, which sounds ridiculous, but it's probably what would happen. But he would be one of those type of like the career Michael Ford had in high school. So, but Jaden Miles is outstanding, and there's a reason every school in the country has offered him, and very likely is going to land at LSU. As a matter of fact, the prediction at On3 and Rivals has LSU at 98.9% to land Jaden Miles, and what Shea said there was a mouthful. The other player worth noting right now, another in-state prospect from Cecilia, is Braylon Calais, who's one of the top athletes in the country. Here's the deets from Shea after the LSU staff visited with Calais. As a matter of fact, Calais visited on campus with the LSU staff with his family.
Cecilia, shout out on the map right now, because this is a top 5 athlete in the country on the Rivals industry rankings, top 100 player, and ranked as an athlete, 6'2", 190, playing at a school like Cecilia. I mean, you're playing every position when you're that good of an athlete. But LSU, like, kind of the notable news here, Matt, is that LSU has honed in on recruiting him as a wide receiver. And George McDonald, the wide receivers coach, has been the one who went out and saw him. And then Lane Kiffin went out there and saw him. And then I mentioned Jaden Miles being in on that Sunday. So was Braylon. And Braylon came in and kind of had some more extended time with the staff. And I think any questions he had about, hey, where would they view me? How would, they kind of, how do things stack up now on the board? Because ironically enough, more so probably than the 2 prior guys we just talked about, Ole Miss was really, really heavily after him with George McDonald, Kiffin, that offensive staff long before they got here. So this is an LSU Ole Miss recruiting battle to the core right now. And I think that with them being able to spend that time with him right before the dead period that lasts until the end of February, they put him kind of into that space of, hey, we're down here now. You don't have to even think about leaving home. You can play at LSU, but with this offensive staff that had been recruiting you to Ole Miss, here's how we'll use you, all of those things. And again, 6'2", so he's got size, already over 190, and again, a junior in high school. So I'm going to continue to grow. I think he's one that winds up at LSU. We'll see. He hasn't talked about timelines or anything like that, but in what had already been an LSU Ole Miss battle, when you hire the Ole Miss offensive coaches that were recruiting him to LSU, you would think that it certainly favors LSU a little bit more than it does Ole Miss in that swap.
It's worth noting as we talk about Miles and Calais, LSU does have 6 running backs, scholarship running backs on the roster. Remember, you returned Harlan Berry and Caden Durham, and you added 4 running backs in the portal with running back Racine Guillory, Rod Gainey, Dylan Jones, and Stacey Gage. Those were the 4 running backs they added via the portal in addition to the 2. So, and all of them, by the way, have multiple years of eligibility remaining. So for Jaden Miles, he could be joining a very crowded running back room if he's in the 2027 class. And with Braylon Calais, you obviously just completely remade the receiver room. And you have some guys that'll be one and dones at LSU, but never a shortage of talent or opportunity in a Lane Kiffin offense. So we'll continue to follow that to see how it goes. Okay, we're going to put a button on this show with a quick tidbit of Jay Johnson giving an early preview of Milwaukee, which comes to Alec Box Stadium this weekend to open up the 2026 LSU baseball season. That's next. Locked on LSU, your team every day.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Dawn Staley and South Carolina remain on top of the SEC standings after handing Tennessee their worst defeat in program history with a final score of 93-40. In the 43-point win, South Carolina shot 69% from the field. Tessa Johnson had a perfect shooting night, scoring 24 points, shooting 4 for 4 from the floor, including 2 threes, and made all 4 of her free throws. And UCLA remains undefeated in Big Ten play, topping Michigan 69-66 as Player of the Year contender Lauren Betts put up a double-double, scoring 16 points, collecting 16 rebounds, and adding 5 assists and 3 blocks. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
Jay Johnson and the LSU baseball Tigers will open up the 2026 season Friday at the Box against Milwaukee. And the head Tiger gave a little preview of the team coming into the Box.
I think their strength of the team, at least in my initial evaluation, is they have a lot of returning pitching. They have a lot of guys that have thrown a lot of innings of college baseball. And so I like that. I think we're obviously being really tested by our own pitching staff. And when I say our own pitching staff, I'm talking about like 15 guys on our pitching staff. So there's no break. Like you get to the 4th inter-squad game and it's the same as the first one. So that's the first thing that jumps out. I think they're well coached. They have a very scrappy brand of offense that they play. They reached out to us about coming here. And usually what I found when coaches do that, they feel pretty good about their team in that season.
So I love that, by the way, the fact that Milwaukee wants to come here. Now, listen, Milwaukee is going to see a juggernaut. They're going to see a massively talented baseball team that they can't match up with player for player. And LSU is going to overwhelm and overpower Milwaukee both on the mound and at the plate. That's just what happens in these types of weekends. And also, LSU is practicing outdoors and Milwaukee's covered in snow. It's sub-zero temperatures. So we know how this goes. We see it every year. Would I love to see LSU open up with a non-conference series against Miami? Yes, I would. But Jay Johnson will do what he wants to do, and whatever Jay Johnson wants to do is the best thing to do because he's won 2 national titles in 3 years, and he's the best coach in college baseball, and he deserves the benefit of the doubt for however he wants to use this time to grow and to build his roster. Now, I am going to be fascinated to see how some of this plays out over the opening weekend and opening weekends building up the conference play, because I think the most important part, the most important part about the pre-conference is figuring out roles for your team, in particular pitching, to know what roles they're going to slot into when you get to conference play. One of the reasons I love college baseball is, and I say it often, it's a 56-game evolution. Very seldom does your roster finish how it starts as far as roles. You put guys into situations over that 56-game regular season gauntlet to know who's going to close the game for you? What situational lefty can you put in that you know is going to get the ground ball double play? What left-handed power batter are you going to choose to pinch hit with a runner in scoring position when you're down a run in the seventh? Like, those are the things that you need to learn about your team throughout the 56-game evolution. And you're going to lose games. It always happens. But you're learning about your team so you know who you can turn to in what roles when you get to the end of the season. Look, Zach Cowan is a great example of that. By the way, on Tuesday, Zach Cowan was named to the Stopper of the Year preseason watch list, and he was awesome for LSU last year. But remember what happened to Zach Cowan in the game against Little Rock. He got absolutely shelled in the game that LSU found itself down 5-1, and they had to have a season on the brink, had a brilliant rally, came back, won, went on to win the College World Series. So a big part of LSU winning the College World Series was when Zach Cowan started against Arkansas, went 5 1/3 of 1 run ball on 4 hits with no walks and 6 strikeouts. That was the next outing after the Little Rock disaster. Well, they knew they could count on Zach Cowan because he showed it all season long in his 22 outings. So, look, he's been a starter before at Wofford. He had 17 starts 2 seasons ago, his final year at Wofford. It's not likely going to be a starter for LSU. He can be if they need him to be, but that's going to be part of the 56-game evolution, which starts on Friday at the box. You better believe we're going to be following all the way through. Everyone's asked if we're still going to do the post-game shows. That is the intention. When the Tigers play, we'll do a post-game show live here on Locked on LSU. So you better be subscribed and you better be locked in with us here. If you are on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. If you watch on YouTube, it would be a great help. Please keep watching on YouTube. It'd be a great help if you would go into your favorite podcast app and still subscribe to the audio podcast as well. Let a friend know they love the Tigers. We got you every single day for Locked on LSU. It's your team every day.